Welcome back to Applied Wisdom, Literature for Living Better.
Hey, everyone.
So today we're digging into Mel Robbins' The High Five Habit. The subtitle is Take Control of Your Life with One Simple Habit.
Right. And since you're likely already on a personal growth path, we're looking at this as, maybe another tool for your toolbox.
Exactly. Not just a book report, but what's the actual practical wisdom here? What can you maybe use day to day?
The stuff that might actually make a difference.
And to kind of get a feel for this habit, let's quickly touch on Mel Robbins herself. You might know her from CNN, maybe as a legal analyst.
She was very visible there.
But what makes her, I think, resonate with so many people now is how open she is about her own journey. She's talked about facing serious financial trouble, feeling really lost career-wise, anxiety, self-doubt, the whole roller coaster.
That relatability is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hearing from someone who's actually navigated that kind of stuff.
Totally. And her 5-second rule, which lots of people know, that also came out of a struggle, just needing a way to physically get moving when she felt stuck. It makes her advice feel more earned somehow.
Grounded in real experience, not just theory.
So this high five habit, it wasn't some bolt of lightning insight on a mountaintop. She describes it happening at a really low moment.
Emotional rock bottom, I think she calls it.
Yeah. Standing in front of the mirror, feeling that usual wave of self-criticism washing over her, and then this almost random thought popped into her head. Gosh, I wish I could just high five her, meaning her reflection.
And she actually did it.
She did it right then and there. And she talks about feeling, completely ridiculous at first.
Which makes sense. It's not exactly standard behavior, is it?
Not at all. But she also felt something else. Different, not negative. Maybe a tiny spark of support or recognition.
And that kind of gets to the core problem the book is trying to solve, right? That default setting so many of us have towards self-criticism.
Exactly. We're often way better at cheering on our friends or colleagues than we are ourselves. Our internal monologue can be just brutal.
So the book's aim is really to help you transform that relationship with yourself, to turn down the volume on the inner critic and turn up the inner cheerleader.
And the high five becomes this simple physical trigger to start that process.
Deceptively simple, maybe, because it's literally just looking in the mirror, raising your hand, and high-fiving your reflection.
Yeah.
But the power, as she explains it, is all in the intention behind it.
Okay, let's unpack that intention. What's really happening there? When you high-five someone else, it can mean a bunch of things, can't it?
Yeah, it's a great job, or you got this, or hey, I see you, we're a team.
Right. So turning that gesture towards yourself is about consciously giving yourself that same energy. It's like saying, okay, I see you putting in the effort, or I'm with you on this, or just I acknowledge you.
Especially maybe on those tough mornings, when just getting out of bed feels like a win, that little physical act of acknowledgement.
And it's also about acceptance, isn't it? Not high-fiving some perfect future version, but the person looking back at you right now, flaws and all.
Absolutely. She really pushes for making it part of your morning routine. Brush your teeth, high-five yourself, set a different tone for the day.
But not just the morning.
No, also for moments of doubt, or maybe when you achieve something small. Yeah. Just catch your own eye, raise your hand, connect. That physical contact seems important.
So why the mirror specifically, not just high-fiving the air?
Well, the mirror forces that direct. Confrontation isn't quite the right word. Maybe connection with yourself.
Yeah, you have to actually look at yourself.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, especially if that inner critic is usually running the show, that can be uncomfortable. The mirror shows you who's there, no filter.
So it becomes a tool.
Right. A tool to shift that relationship. Instead of the mirror being a place where you look for flaws, it becomes a place for deliberate self-support. And that awkwardness some feel. Robbins suggests that's actually a good sign. It means you're challenging an old pattern.
So you're actively trying to switch from being your own worst critic to your own, cheerleader.
That's the goal. Most of us have had years of practice being critical. The high five habit is presented as a conscious way to practice being supportive. Each high five reinforces that self-compassion pathway. And the physical act itself can kind of interrupt those negative thought loops.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay purely in your head beating yourself up when you're doing something physically positive, even if it feels a bit weird at first.
But it creates a
pause, exactly, a space to maybe choose a different thought. And over time, the idea is that this repetition can actually start to change your default setting in how you relate to yourself.
Yeah, she does bring in some science to back this up, but keeps it pretty accessible, right?
Very accessible. Yeah. She talks about neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing ability to change and form new connections. The suggestion is that repeatedly high-fiving yourself helps build these new neural pathways dedicated to self-support.
Okay. Makes sense.
And there's the physical-emotional link. Doing a positive action can actually trigger positive feelings. She mentions dopamine, that reward chemical, suggesting self-acknowledgement feels good and makes you want to do it again.
And the RAS, the reticular activating system.
Yeah, she touches on that too. Basically, by focusing your attention on self-support through the high five, you're kind of programming your brain to notice more positive things about yourself and your life. It primes your attention.
So it's not deep neuroscience, but it gives a plausible why it might work.
Exactly. It's about the practical application. She also connects it to psychological ideas like behavioral activation, taking action, changes your mood, and the difference between self-compassion and self-esteem.
How so?
Well, self-esteem can be fragile, often tied to achievements. Self-compassion is more about being kind and understanding toward yourself, especially when you mess up or struggle. The high five is framed as an act of self-compassion.
A ritual for self-acceptance.
Kind of, yeah. Building it into a routine gives it that grounding effect, a consistent signal that you're on your own side.
Okay, practicalities. Someone's listening and thinking, all right, I'll give this a shot. How do they start?
Robbins suggests a simple commitment, maybe just 5 days to start, just to get over that initial hump of inertia or awkwardness.
Find a regular time.
Yeah, morning routine is usually easiest. Bathroom mirror after brushing teeth, something like that. Then the action. Look yourself in the eyes. The connection is important. Raise your hand and actually make contact with your reflection. High five.
And if it feels silly,
lean into it. Robbins says that feeling often means you're breaking new ground, pushing past old conditioning. Same with skepticism. She basically says, what have you got to lose? Try it. Action can come before belief sometimes.
and just keep doing it.
Consistency is key. Like any habit, repetition builds the pathway. But also, don't beat yourself up if you miss a day. Just pick it back up the next day. It's about the overall pattern.
And it doesn't have to be just the mere high five.
No, she encourages extending the principle. Like mentally high-fiving your goals or dreams to give them positive energy. High-fiving your past self for getting through tough times.
Acknowledging resilience.
Exactly. Even high-fiving other people, sort of spreading that positive energy and applying the underlying principle, self-compassion in daily life. Give yourself a mental high five after a small win, or practice self-kindness when you make a mistake.
What about common roadblocks, like forgetting or feeling like nothing's changing?
Practical advice again. For forgetting, sticky notes, phone alarms, link it to an existing habit like brushing teeth. For not seeing results immediately, patience. You're rewiring potentially lifelong patterns. That takes time. Focus on consistency, not instant transformation.
And the feeling that maybe it's arrogant to celebrate yourself.
Yeah, she addresses that societal conditioning. Her point is that self-support isn't arrogance. It's necessary fuel for living a better life.
So what's the ripple effect supposed to be? If you stick with this, what changes?
Well, the first area is self-perception and confidence. The idea is it increases self-worth, quiets that inner critic over time, and builds a more genuine, steady confidence, not based on external validation, but internal support. More resilience, too.
Makes sense. If you're not beating yourself up constantly, you'd probably bounce back quicker.
Right. And it impacts relationships. A better relationship with yourself usually leads to better relationships with others. You have more emotional resources to give. You might even attract more positive interactions.
And goals, productivity.
Yeah, she connects it to overcoming procrastination because often self-doubt is the root cause. Increased motivation because you're telling yourself you can do this. And maybe more willingness to take risks, knowing you have your own back if you stumble.
And she shares stories, testimonials.
Loads of them. People reporting changes in anxiety, body image, careers, even healing from past stuff. That serves as social proof, showing the potential range of impact and offering hope.
So, boiling it down, what are the key takeaways for someone focused on their personal growth?
I think one is the sheer power of simple, consistent actions. Doesn't have to be complicated to be effective. Another is how absolutely foundational your relationship with yourself is. Everything kind of flows from that.
Right, you can't ignore that piece.
And the importance of active self-celebration and encouragement. You need to consciously become your own cheerleader. It highlights our power to reframe our mindset, to change that internal channel from criticism to compassion.
Action as an antidote to getting stuck.
Yes. Taking even a tiny action, like the high five, can break inertia and combat doubt. And using the mirror, not for judgment, but for honest connection. Seeing yourself, acknowledging yourself.
It feels like it all comes back to that core relationship.
It really does. And maybe a final takeaway is that emotional well-being isn't passive. It's a practice, a daily commitment to treating yourself with support and kindness.
So the high five habit, it's really a call to transform how you relate to yourself using this very simple, very physical, repeatable act. Definitely food for thought if you're on that growth journey.
Yeah, it underscores the potential in those small actions when they're done with intention. A daily physical reminder that you're worthy of your own encouragement.
Well, thanks for digging into this one with us today. It's certainly an interesting concept.
Good conversation.
Stay tuned for the next one. And hey, if this was helpful, please do like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people.